Welcome back to the 2 Months Podcast. I'm your host, Joshua Marshall. We are presented by Sheena Boychuk Real Estate and also CDN in Calgary. We have our co-host with us this evening. We got Mark Strickland. Stricky, how's it going?
Good, Josh. How you doing? Thanks for having me back.
No worries, no worries. Bob talked you up so good that we had to bring you back. And
Yeah, thanks, Bob. Thanks for doing that.
and
There's no better plug than a plug from Bob Stauffer.
exactly.
Oh, well, I know one thing. A lot of people have called me a plug over the years, so that might make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It wasn't because of your offense either.
No, I can score a little.
Yeah.
Right too. He looked
Right
like
on.
Tom Cruise back in the day. But we have the Oilers color commentator, and he is the color analyst on the regional coverage and the host of Oilers Now from 5 to 7 on 6:30 CHED. On 6:30 CHED. So we have Bob Stauffer. Staff, how's it going?
Good. What's going on, Josh?
Pretty good, I have to say. You know what? It was nice to catch up with Tyler Toffoli after the game this afternoon. So I was there with Ilya and his mom Laura. So we
What did he say?
We lost Strickland, so I don't know what happened there. Maybe his internet cucked out, but we'll keep going. But he had some good thoughts on it. He felt that maybe if it was a little bit of a later game, they would have had their legs. He said they felt tired 3 games in 4 nights. He said they didn't really feel like they were going at all in the first 2 periods, and they kind of poured it on a little bit better in the third. But he said just a little bit tired, and it's been a long road trip for them. And but yeah, he says obviously a different team than what they probably saw in some films before. But your thoughts on the game?
Well, I would certainly, as somebody who's privileged enough to, to travel, Josh, with an NHL team, I can, the 3 games in 4 days tends to be a killer. It can sometimes be a, what's affectionately known as a scheduling loss.
Yeah.
And, they got in the wins in Vancouver and Calgary. I concur with what he said. I mean, the first 2 periods, the Oilers only gave up 12 shots on goal against. So,
yeah, and another thing too, he was saying is that just Pickard played really well too. You just ran into a goaltender that was seeing and tracking the puck really well. And I heard you on the pregame show with Reed too, that out of this homestand, maybe this is the toughest team that the Oilers will play. I was listening to that on the way in, and with the 3 lines that the Devils can throw. Were you surprised by maybe the lack of pace earlier on in the game? Like the Oilers looked pretty good, but were you?
No, I actually thought New Jersey did a pretty good job through the neutral ice, kind of limiting Edmonton's opportunities. They switched their forecheck up as the game wore on, and they were behind a little right to kind of work their way back into it. The Devils. Josh, the Devils went 2-3 without Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier. Nico Hischier right now is probably one of the best two-way centermen in the National Hockey League. You saw what he did against the Flames yesterday. He got another point tonight. He's really good in the face-off circle. They had the puck a lot. Michael McLeod started the game 8-0 on face-offs, finished up 9-4. New Jersey's, I would say this about the Devils, they're fast and they're quick. They're a little light. And I wonder come playoff time if that's going to be a factor. But they are deep. And, they've got a lot of tricky little players. To me, they're going to be a really intriguing team to watch in the future because, I mean, the Nemec kid on the back end he's got a high ceiling. I would be stunned if New Jersey was not at least in the Final 4 in the Eastern Conference this year. Like I see them for sure winning a round in the playoffs all day. Yeah. So, and again, just the fact, like at one point, I know what the overlap was with Hughes and Hischier, but they didn't have Meyer as well. He missed a bunch of games. That just for Brad who scored tonight. I mean, he's killed the Oilers. He's got 11 points in 9 games. He's quick, like they got darting fast forwards, and then you look at what they got coming with Luke Hughes on the back end and Nemec. Like they played without Dougie Hamilton today. That's a 70-point defenseman they didn't have in the lineup. But I know not everybody down in Calgary loves the guy, but he's a pretty good offensive defenseman. So I think that's a pretty good team that the Oilers beat tonight. and I stand by Florida's playing really good. They're 5-1-1 in their last 7. I think Tampa Bay is a little bit banged up. We'll see on Chicago. Clearly, they're in a rebuild. I think they dropped to 19-7-1 tonight. So I stand by my comment. I think New Jersey is going to be the toughest team the Oilers face in the homestand.
Yeah, no, I definitely concur with that, and I agree with that for sure. Strickland, your thoughts on the game this afternoon, and obviously kind of what it's been up going, trending upwards. Get your quick thoughts, and if you have any questions for Stauffer about the game today.
Well, first of all, what I'd like to say is at approximately 2 p.m. today at Rogers Place, a nice little girl named Soraya Liapis, if I'm not pronouncing her name wrong, performed an amazing performance of the American and Canadian national anthems and literally touched the hearts of our family and captivated everybody here in our home. So thank you so much, Soraya, for delivering an absolutely beautiful performance of the Canadian and American national anthem. So let's start off with that, because they were hosting the kids tonight and the kids were doing like sports report and sport analysts. So we enjoyed that in our home. And thank you again, Soraya, for doing that for us. So, she almost had me choked up. And for a guy
you're a sensitive, nice guy, man. Let me tell you,
a guy that has the emotional capacity of a teaspoon, that's pretty good.
There you go.
Yeah,
it was it was good. She got a standing ovation several times throughout those national anthems, right?
She was young.
Yes.
That's not
11 years old.
No,
she hit a high note. It reminds me of there's 2 anthems that I'll always remember. One was Whitney Houston in the Super Bowl. She was unbelievable, and what a voice. But the other was Mariah Carey when the Pistons were the bad boys in the late 1980s, and she hadn't quite reached stardom yet. And my guess is she was like 19 or 20 at the time, and she was singing the American the Beautiful. And she hit the upper tones, and you could see the players. So they're like, "Holy blank!" She just carried that tone for they're like, "Oh my God, what a voice!" So I what's funny? I like but that's that next gen game is always an interesting game. The kids, they just go for it. You got to love it. They're just going for it.
Even Christina, that was with Tony Barr, there was doing pretty good too. So
yeah, Tony better watch it.
His microphone.
Tony.
Yeah, she is. Tony Barr, good ball hockey player there.
All in all, I thought the Oilers played a good game. I almost wanted Pix. I wanted Pix to get that shutout. He almost had it, and but top down, I thought the Oilers played pretty good. We executed well. Our offense was going. We were protecting our blue line, and the Oilers are clicking now, man. There's no doubt about it. We're on a heater, so let's keep this thing going.
Staff, question for you here from our CDN text inbox, and it's actually from our co-host, but he wants to know, Brodin McIntyre wants to know, is this the best two-way game that you ever seen Connor McDavid play as an Edmonton Oiler this afternoon? Because he thinks it was.
No, I mean, he was physical. He got hit early, and then he responded and went back at him. I just think that it's working, man. So here's the thing. Chris Knobloch, when he took the job, he was asked by Mark Spector. Spector, Daniel Nugent-Bowman had to fly home from Seattle on the Sunday. We flew with the team on Saturday night, and there were rumblings, but we weren't 100% sure. And Jay couldn't buy a break in terms of the offense, but the penalty killing was 30th, the goals against was 30th, and the save percentage was 32nd when the coaching change was made. The offense was not scoring to start the year. It was going to come. The expected goals for would suggest all day that was inevitable. I'm just going to read you the stats in the 7-game heater. So they got the best, they're undefeated. They're 7-0. They got the best record. They're number 1 in goals for at 4.86. They're number 2 in goals against at 1.71. They're 43.5% on the power play. They're 95.8% on the penalty kill. And for me, so I look at those offensive numbers and the power play numbers, I think, okay, I could see the Oilers having a 6 or 7 game run like that. But what surprised me here is the defense and the structure and the process that they're playing with, and then the penalty kill. Like that to me is the biggest thing, because we haven't had a lot of runs where they've killed 28 out of 29, and in the 7-game winning streak, I think they're 23 or 24 or whatever. So 28 or 29 dating back to that game in Carolina, which kind of, the third period of the game in Carolina. I did the Golden Bears for 13 years. Rob Dahm coached the team for 8 of the seasons that I did the team's games. Okay. And his teams could transition the puck. They used the middle of the ice. Okay. They let their defensemen make plays. They played zone defense. So, guys had quadrants, call it a box plus one or a zone, which meant that the center was very important, took on a lot of responsibility. And then they forechecked hard with lots of puck support in the ozone. Okay. And I'm watching this team, and the first guy, Chris Knobloch, the first coach he mentioned was Rob Dahm. I'm here to tell you guys, I've seen this before. Mm-hmm. I've seen a team play like this before. Chris's numbers in the 4 years in Erie: 4 goals against, power play, and penalty kill. The 4 full seasons he coached in Erie, 50 wins each year. They were never lower than 6 in any of those statistical categories. Okay, there's 20 teams in the OHL. Most of the years, they were first, second, or third in goals for. Most of the years, they were first, second, or third in the power play. One of the years, they were 6 in goals against, and one of the years, they were 6 in the penalty kill. So they've been good. And he's applied a little bit, like they're playing straight zone. They're playing zone. Everybody knows when you play zone, when you get the puck, everybody knows where they are. So that allows you to transition quicker and easier. And then Paul Coffey's come in and bred some confidence in the team as well. Darnell Nurse looks like a different player. Yeah. Bouchard, I'm sure we'll get to him. He's having an unbelievable go here. Oilers fans should be excited, but what they should be most excited about is this isn't like when they started the year. I remember with Nugent Hopkins' first year in 11-12, they were 9-3-2 at one point, and Javi Blue had a 960 save percentage. That was fluke. You're not going to have a 960 save percentage. But when all parts of your game are the way their parts of the games are right now, there's a chance that there would be a degree of, you might have a drop off in one of those areas, but as a general rule of thumb, you usually get positive results if you do those things well.
Yeah. One thing I'd like to add to that, Bob, what you said is I like that Knobloch's got like 4 or 5 guys that he's got a clear identity of, like, you 4 or 5 players are clear penalty killers. You are PK guys and it's not a knock on Woodcroft or anything like that. I'm a big fan of Jay Woodcroft, and I think his clarity with the media and everything, I liked a lot about him. But he used to kind of have that philosophy that anybody can kill penalties. But I do like that Knobloch's kind of designated 4 or 5 guys. This is your penalty killing role. And those guys are going out there and doing it. And they're executing it, and they're doing it beautifully. So I think that's great that he selected those guys, and they're doing what they're assigned to do. And they're taking a role on this team and perfecting it. Like, I think that's a good thing, as opposed to anyone can kill penalties and we'll throw McD and Draisaitl out there all the odd time on the PK. Where what he has done is he's assigned 4 or 5 players to do it. Yeah. And then after the kill's done, McD and Draisaitl go after a 2-minute rest and they jump a shift together.
Yeah, well, a couple of things. So Knobloch did his analytics when he took the job, looked at the penalty kill. The Oilers in the first 13 games used 24 different sets of forwards on the PK. Only 2 sets of those forwards played more than 4 minutes a game. So, okay, there were some injuries with some of those guys. Like Janmark got knocked out of lineup. That's a player that both Jay and Chris liked. They played a lot of 11 and 7, so there was mismatching with the forward lines, and also the PK or the defense pairings. And we'll get to Broberg later. But I think what had ended up happening a bit on the penalty kill, sometimes they were chasing games. They had more offensive players in the ice. So 100%, Mark, you're right. He's created clear role identity. specifically for the bottom six forwards. Nugent Hopkins is the one top six forward who consistently kills. You watch it. You go through the last 7 games. Nugent Hopkins and Derek Ryan are on the first PK forward group. The second PK forward group, now that they're both healthy and back, is Janmark and Connor Brown. The third PK group is Fogle and McLeod. If there's a defensive zone draw and Brown and Janmark are out there, then Draisaitl comes out to take the draw, then he gets off the ice as fast as he can. So
That's right.
That's kind of what they've done.
It seems like after every successful kill, he doesn't hesitate to throw McDavid and Draisaitl out together after a successful.
But nor did Jay, Mark. But I'm with you. I mean, it's creating a situation where everybody feels they're chipping in.
Yeah,
I like it.
A lot of the
PK
a lot of the PK credit would go to Mark Stewart too, wouldn't you say, Stauffer? There,
I mean, he's taking it on, no question. So, I picked a bad night. I got all Alabama players on my fantasy football team.
Yes.
Okay, and I had a chance to start Jalen Hurts tonight or Tua Tagovailoa tomorrow against Tennessee, and I thought, Tennessee's fired their coach. They're going to be all fired up. I know Miami's at home, but Philadelphia had a rough week last week against the 49ers. They're going to be pumped to play the Cowboys. And Jalen Hurts hasn't done a damn thing halfway through this game. So I'm not looking too good here. There's a good chance I'm going to end up dropping one. So, but yeah, I got all Alabama starters. You got to have little things that you're into, Josh. You know that. Besides, can't all be hockey all the time. It can be 98% hockey, but sometimes it's a little bit of NFL. Sometimes it's some college football. And you learn a lot. You learn a lot when you're watch those other programs and elite programs. And that's, it's interesting. I mean, I don't know what you guys think, but like I watched Knobloch, and I was talking about this guy 10 years ago. He won in Kootenay with a defensive team, Erie with an offensive team. He didn't have a lot of A-grade prospects with the Rangers. He still developed some players. They made him competitive in the playoffs. Oilers might have something with this guy. It's going good right now. Now, saying that, Jay Woodcroft, from February 10th of 2022 to the start of this season, had the second best regular season record in the NHL. He did a pretty good job as well.
Yeah. So a few tough conversations. This is our Edmonton Oilers report, sponsored by our friends at Shadified Salon and Barbershop. Shaddy, I was there on the weekend, Stauffer. He really, really wants you to come by and get your hair cut there at least once. So,
all right. Can you make me look 15 years younger and help me lose about 35 pounds?
You sure can. If you can do it for me, you can do it for you, right?
There you
go. So Shaddy will be fired up for that. But where you at with obviously the news that Frank Saravalli reported with Philip Broberg? And I think a couple of years ago, Stauffer, on Oilers Now, you had a Swedish reporter. Is it Mike Zeiser? I don't know if I'm pronouncing it.
Mike Zanier, yes.
Yeah. So his kind of thoughts on Broberg, just kind of wonder where you're at with him. Obviously, the news of him going down and Gleason coming up. And, I've seen Gleason a lot in with the Texas Stars when he was there paired up with Petro, another good friend of the pod in Alexander Petrovich. But, your thoughts on the Broberg going down, Gleason coming up, and where are you at with the development? And do you think Broberg can still be a player for the Oilers going forward here at some point?
Well, I definitely think Broberg can still be a player because Dale Talon said it best. You don't know what you have with a defenseman until he's played about 300 games in the NHL, and Broberg's in the 70s. If you had told me 2 years ago, we went into Vegas, might have been Iron Bowl weekend because I was watching the Iron Bowl in the broadcast booth between it. Bryce Young was quarterbacking at Alabama. The game went into the 2-point convert shootout thing in Auburn. Broberg was paired with Cody Ceci, and he played like 22 minutes, and he was great against Vegas, who are a hard forechecking team. If you had told me then that 2+ years later, Broberg wouldn't be an established NHLer, I would have said you're crazy. But the Oilers added first Kulak and then Ekholm. And they still have Nurse. So they've got a lot of experience on the left side. The agent, Darren Ferris, I respect that he's competing and he's fighting for his client. That's what he's trying to push the envelope. Ken Holland was on Oilers Now on Thursday. He said, look, there may have been a little bit of a miscommunication. We've worked on it. We're trying to improve communication back and forth between us. In the meantime, Broberg's gone down to the minors. I know he played really well the first game. Back to back, he probably played 40 minutes of the two games. He hadn't played a lot lately. He's going to play Tuesday again. And from this point forward in the short term, while he's down in Bakersfield, I see him playing 20 to 22 minutes a night. So the best place for him until an opportunity presents itself through injury. Yeah. So I'm not giving up on Philip Broberg. For those of you that say, well, they should have got more of a guy picked in the first round of the 2019 draft, 100% that's a fair comment.
Yeah.
Who's the second rounder of the Leafs app from 2019 that's in their lineup?
In the Leafs lineup? Was it?
Yeah, is that Robertson?
Yes, yeah, Nick Robertson.
Yeah. Like he's, you know,
it took him some time too. He's obviously got a career high in points, Robertson, right now. But he just played 13 games in a row, and like
a little bit easier for a forward to break in. But right now, the Oilers, like Holloway's hurt. He's played about 55, 60 games. He still hasn't gained the traction. I still believe in both of those players. I do.
Yeah.
But it'd be fair to say that you would have hoped for greater contributions to date from both players. No questions asked.
Yeah. So now Craig Simpson said something interesting on Robinson on Saturday night that I thought, could maybe bode well, but I'd have to go back and look and see what the consecutive games Broberg's played, like how many consecutive games he's played in a row. And Nick Robinson played his 13th consecutive game in a row for the Leafs the other night. So he can wake up knowing that he's playing the next night and there's no, I'm not playing, I'm playing. And that was a problem with him. And obviously the injury was a big concern in Robinson's development and somewhat in Broberg's too. And COVID kind of put a wrench into a lot of what
this. All those guys.
Yeah.
Like, Josh, did you see any of the games during the Holinka Gretzky back in 2018?
Yeah, I was at some.
Like Broberg was Sweden's best player.
Yeah. He could skate. I know that's the biggest thing is like, oh, people just took him because he can skate. But, I still think
one of the things Mike Zanier said was that he hadn't grabbed it in Skellefteå yet when he was there.
Mm-hmm.
And he hadn't. And that's, if you're looking at this and you're an Oiler fan and you're saying they blew the pick and, here's the reasons why he's not a full-time NHL player. There's other players that are way more impactful in their clubs. Well, to date, he's not a full-time player and he's nowhere near as impactful as other players drafted around him. That's an undeniable fact. I would just say it's too early to give up on him.
Yeah. We'll move over to Jack Campbell. Do you think he gets called up after this road trip and where the Oilers kind of go on a 6-game road or after this homestand where the Oilers go on the road? Or does today's performance with Pickard buy you maybe another month? Because I really liked your interview with Colin Chalk last Monday. I think that was a really insightful interview. I was driving back from Fort McMurray when I was listening to that. And, the fact that you said what you said on the 2 goals that he shouldn't have allowed. But, and Colin kind of really did double down on the fact of like, hey, yes, he had some 3 good performances before, but, goal 1 and goal 4 can't go in. And, I think that's pretty honest from a coach. And I like the way he breaks down all the players. I think if anyone gets a chance, go to the YouTube version of that. I know it's a bit of an older interview, but it's a really insightful interview. I think people get a lot from it. I actually told Elliot Friedman to go listen to it too, because I thought it was really, really good. But just kind of the thought on Campbell right now, and do you think with Pickard's performance today, it buys the Oilers a little bit more time where, you can leave him down there a little bit more because Pickard can take the reins here if he needs to in a backup role?
Well, Josh, number one, based on Pickard, let's deal with Pickard first.
Yeah.
Those players played today like they were prepared to dive in the grenade for him. They like him. He's a good guy, which is not to say that Campbell's not a good guy. They were pulling hard for Campbell last year too, but they played hard for him today. They fronted a lot of pucks. I think they had 23 blocked shots in the game.
Yeah.
So that's number one. Number two, Campbell. So we had that interview on Monday, and he had the poor performance on Saturday, 2 bad goals against. Well, he got in there on Friday, and he didn't have a very good start this past Friday either. I watched. I didn't watch the entire game, but I watched because we were playing.
Yeah,
the Oilers were playing, but I watched the highlights of the game Friday. He has to be better than that. Okay, and so that's 2 tougher starts in a row. So in my opinion, Pickard gives you the option of starting him. So the Oilers got 3 games left in this homestand, and then they got 3 games before Christmas on the road in New York. and it's on a back-to-back. There's the New Jersey Rangers game back-to-back. I think you could leave Pickard up and have Pickard start the game in New Jersey.
Yeah.
So that gives Skinner 5 of the final 6 starts before Christmas. I would not hesitate to do that based on Pickard's performance. And in my opinion, I want to see Campbell have 3 or 4 good starts in a row before I even contemplate recalling him. So there's your answer.
Strix, do you have anything there? You want to jump in?
Well, you know what? I got to agree with what Bob just said there. Like, I got to look at it with my eyes, and what I saw tonight and what I've seen previous is Skinner can play. Looks like Picks can be a pretty solid, reliable backup the way he played today against Jersey. I thought he played an awesome game. He made a couple big saves and big moments and kept the Oilers in it. I actually thought he was going to get the egg at one point, and it was a kind of bit of a disappointment that he let the one by, but I thought he could have walked out there with an egg tonight, and I actually felt pretty good about our goaltending tandem. So I would agree with what Bob's saying and let Campbell string 4 or 5 good wins together, keep his GAA down, and when he's ready, come back. I fully think that Campbell deserves another shot here in Edmonton and all that, but looking with my eyes tonight, I didn't see anything for concern between the Skinner and Pickard combo at all.
You touched on Evan Bouchard earlier there, Staff. The point streak he's on right now, he's seeing the puck. The puck is going in for him. The fact that he's able to break out, he got into my buddy Toffoli's face a little bit earlier in the game too, but right in front of the bench. So threw Toffoli down. I didn't like that. No, I'm joking, but he did get into Toffoli's face earlier.
Do that more.
Yes, exactly. Your thoughts of where he's at right now, and I know that some of the pundits were going after him pretty hard, but what we're seeing is kind of what we thought we were going to get at some point, right?
So I like guys that are elite puck movers, and he's an elite puck mover. He's got a great processor. He can really think the game. He transitions the puck because he can get it up. That's the thing that Nurse has done a lot better here in the last 3 weeks, is get the puck up. I mean, Darnell Nurse created the first power play today with a 120-foot diagonal pass off the boards to Draisaitl to create that 2-on-1. So Kane drove and Kane's been fighting through some injury here, but he drove the lane on the partial breakaway. Then they got the power play. But Schmid made some good saves today for New Jersey. I'm not surprised with Bouchard. And I know you listen to the show, Josh, I've been talking about Bouch for the last 5 years. I would have played Bouchard ahead of Caleb Jones and Ethan Bear in the 2021 All-Canadian division. I said it to Dave Tippett. I said it to Jim Playfair. I said it in Zoom because we were not on the road with the team that year. This guy has a high ceiling. And in fairness to Tippett, he's the one that came up with the Larry Murphy comparable.
Yeah.
But Bouchard shoots the puck like Al McInnes. And he's grooving it right now. And so go ahead and take away. The Oilers have the best 3. We've talked about this before. When they're rolling McDavid, Draisaitl, and Nugent Hopkins in a 1-3-1, Hyman the net front, Bouch the point. So maybe in the past, at times, you could take McDavid and Draisaitl away a little bit in the seam. You overcommit to McDavid and you open up space to Bouchard.
Yeah,
he's going to shoot the pill past you, and he can do it. So I'm liking what we see. He's picked up his defensive urgency a little bit. He's never going to be Chris Pronger with his stick toughness and play nasty and those sort of things. But the Oilers have something with this guy.
Yeah, you know what, Bob? To add to that, the one thing I'm watching Bouchard do now is he's kind of taking a page out of Tyson Barrie's book, where he's pedaling across the blue line, where he receives the pass on the wall and he pedals his feet across the blue line and creates a shooting lane and just lets her rip it.
Yeah,
and I'm actually really enjoying watching him do that.
It's interesting because the Leafs signed Klingberg, and in Klingberg's prime, nobody could walk the line like he could.
Yeah.
And Bouch is blocking it, but Bouch's advantage, he's got a way heavier shot. And that shot can look what they did last year in the playoffs against Vegas. Vegas dominated Edmonton 5-on-5, with the exception of the Fogle, Derek Ryan, and McLeod line in games 2 through 6. Vegas won a lot of the 5-on-5 puck. The shot shares in that series, ultimately won the series. but the Oilers power play absolutely sliced and diced them. It brought them back against LA when they were down 3-0 in game 4 to come back in that series. And Bouchard, the power play is better with Evan than it was with Tyson Barrie. That's all there is to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I just love to watch that pedal across the line and create that lane and just let her rip. It's a beautiful thing to watch.
Yeah.
I never had that sort of lateral movement, so for me it was a lot tougher to execute.
Yeah. I can relate.
And so any other stuff there, Strickland, you want to add before we move on to the hitting from behind debate that we're going to have here? We'll finish up.
No, I don't think so, Josh. Just I'm glad where the direction's going. I wasn't counting the Oilers out by any means, and I'm glad to see them string a bunch of wins together like this and just prove all the doubters wrong.
Yeah. Like they said on TSN Overdrive, Vegas, probably, maybe LA or even the Canucks. They're not going to want to play the Oilers if the Oilers become a wild card team, they're not going to want to face those teams. So we'll see what happens. I think they can still maybe catch Vancouver because they're slipping a little bit, but
Vancouver's done some good things as an organization. 5 trades since the start of the year.
Yeah,
they have a better team right now, Josh, than they had going into the season. They had Smith in goal, so he's a better backup than Spencer Martin. I love Lafferty.
Yeah.
Love Lafferty. And then, Pearson, by the way, got knocked out of the lineup for 6 weeks tonight from Montreal. He's hurt again. So, they moved Pearson for DeSmith, used the cap savings to get Lafferty, and then they ended up getting Chicago to buy him Beauvillier, and that creates the mechanism to take on Zadorov. They've done Jim Rutherford and Patrick Calvin, they've done some good work there, and Tocchet's got those. They've failed for so many years, and that's what it is. They failed. They missed the playoffs 7 of the last 8 years. Vancouver's got a good team. Vegas is a good team. Todd McClellan's a really good coach. There's some good teams in the Pacific.
Yeah, there sure is. It'll be interesting to see. But let's move to our NHL report, sponsored by Sheena Boychuk. Our NHL news and notes segment is brought to you by Sheena Boychuk. Yes, you heard that last name right. That's Sheena Boychuk. As a licensed realtor, Sheena has you covered to buy and sell your home in this hot market. She also offers home consulting services to help you upgrade your living space. Check her website out at sheenaboychuk.com and tell her the Two Months Podcast sent you. Realty by Design, your design approach to real estate. We'd like to thank Sheena for jumping on. This is a new sponsor for us. So we're very excited to have her join us here on this 2 Months Podcast journey.
This public service announcement is brought to you by our friends at CDN. Here's a crazy thought. Not all teamwear needs a team logo. Stand out in the crowd and rep your team colors with one of CDN's hockey hats. Listen, these hats are phenomenal. We just got ours a little while ago, and we've been wearing them nonstop. You know when you find a hat you love and you just can't take it off? Yep, that's how we feel with our CDN hat. Every time we wear it out, we get asked, "Where did you get that hat?" I know what you're thinking. How can I get one? Cue the details. Shop online 24/7 at www.wearecdn.ca and use the promo code 2MUTS for 15% off your order. Again, that's www.wearecdn.ca to get your new favorite hat and use the discount code 2MUTS at checkout for 15% off your order. Now back to the show. Coach Rupper here from 2 Mutts. Thanks for tuning into the podcast. Now let's grab a knee. Have I got a deal for you? We have teamed up with Manscaped, and we can save you some big-time coin this upcoming NHL season. Guys, are your sticks and pucks getting hairy in the corners? And gals, is your goalie still using horsehair Coopers? Well, let's wake up! Use the code 2MUTS to save 20% plus free shipping on Manscaped products. Listen, we all love to score and we all want to win the cup. Why not do it on a fresh, clean, smooth sheet of ice? That way we all win. Manscaped is the only way to go. Again, the code is 2MUTS to save 20% plus free shipping on Manscaped products. Now let's bring it in. Manscaped on 3. 1, 2, 3. All right, Mutts fans, listen up. So SeatGeek is an amazing app that helps you buy tickets in the easiest way possible. So please, if you ever need to buy tickets to any event, NHL, NBA, NFL, CFL, MLB, or concert tickets, click the link in our description and use promo code 2MUTSPOD to get 20% off your first purchase. That's 2MUTSPOD to get 20% off your first purchase. SeatGeek is where it's at.
Obviously Kyle Oposo spoke very openly last night from the hit from behind that one of his players received, and the inconsistency. And he was telling referee Trevor Hansen about, I don't get it. The night before, if Vander Kane does it, gets nothing. There's an injury on the play. Again, I was listening to you and Reed on the way in. You were breaking down. I was listening, so I didn't get to see the highlights until I got home of what Branson was doing. And I met Branson once. The guy is an amazing person and a really good hockey player. He's not shy away from it, and kind of what Elliot Friedman posted on Twitter, to put justice in his own hands because Cousins hit him from behind. So where are you at here? Because I know Jason Gregor says this a lot. The NHL doesn't take hitting from behind seriously. I personally don't think they do. I think, obviously Branson has a hearing tomorrow. From what he did, I think he got up to 29 minutes in penalties. In that one incident, he got 27 minutes of penalties because he had 2 minutes prior. But where are you at? Because I don't like it. I think it's a joke. I'm not going to say the Oilers weren't the better team against Minnesota. They clearly were. But I think that play that Vander Kane should have got 5 in a game dictated the outcome of the game, because obviously the Oilers got a power play and they scored and they won on that. At the end of the day, you could say the Oilers were the better team all night. The shots and everything was. But the fact that didn't get called, and Brodin's going to miss 4 weeks, and then we saw, another one, and then another one, and good thing Branson didn't get hurt off the one that he had. And I don't like Cousins either. I think the guy's a weasel of a player. He doesn't really stand up for himself. And
you might like him more if he was playing for your team. He's a little bit greasy.
Well, he eliminated the Leafs last year, so that's why I don't like him even more. So
I wondered if that might have something to do with it.
Exactly. Anyways, go ahead, Stauffer. We
are going to talk about the Leafs and then the Oilers and the big guns. I know that.
Yeah.
Here's what I'd say. If that was Evan Bouchard going back for the puck and somebody belted him the way Kane got Brodin, and there was no penalty call, and then one of the Oilers players went to defend Bouchard and they got the minor, I'd be pretty exasperated too. So I completely understand the frustration that Minnesota had in that sequence. I'm also surprised that Kane didn't get a penalty, because he's a Vander Kane, and it seems to me a lot of times he gets calls against them that not every player in the league would get.
Correct.
And then they missed that one. I was surprised. I thought for sure he'd get at least a minor in that situation. So saying that, there's been times where he's been called for stuff that I'm thinking is complete and total BS, like 50-50 stuff that they let lots of other guys get away with. And I agree with Jason. I think they got to take some of this stuff away. It's just a little much, you know what I mean? Like they got to do a better job of, sometimes it gets called, other times it doesn't. I can tell you right now, like I was part of a generation where you hit from the time that you were 6 on. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And occasionally I used to skate with my head down, and then I get the snot kicked out of me with hits. I never once purposely hit a guy from behind in the boards ever. I blew guys up all the time. Okay. I did. I was a big kid. I skated through guys. I tried to hit them in the sternum. Okay. I made guys have seizures on the ice. I hit them so hard, but I wasn't anywhere near good enough to even play major junior. But for my generation, you simply did not finish guys off. Now, one of the things that's happened is you've got players that are turning back into the boards and not protecting themselves either. I'll leave it at this. I think Evander pushes the envelope. I think at times he doesn't get the breaks from the official. I think he got a break in that situation. So I can understand why Minnesota was frustrated.
And it's interesting you say that, because a couple of years ago, my grandpa passed away, and I was on a plane. I was going to his funeral, and I actually sat next. I think I told you this before, Staff, but I sat next to an NHL ref because I always would go at you through text when I'm like, "Stop ripping the refs on radio! Stop ripping the refs on radio!" And I just sat next to this one ref on the plane, and it was a short ride. It wasn't too long. It was from Edmonton to Victoria, but
So it was relatively painless for the ref, then, is what you're saying.
exactly, you got that right. But I kept in contact with this ref. He's still in the NHL today. He's a veteran. He's been around a while.
Yeah.
And and it's funny you brought up that analogy of Kane, and I brought that up through a text message. I'm like, that should be 5 in a game, and he goes, I agree. He's like, it should have been a call. And he goes, actually, he's like, overtime, probably yes. Maybe Kane might get more calls than you think, but the respect that the refs have for him, and I'm not just saying it's because of what he's done off the ice, but really what he's done off the ice in coming to Edmonton, I think maybe plays a factor in it too. I don't know. I'm just like, I can only speak to what this ref is saying. Like, I'm not saying he's.
Yeah, I just think the Oilers ducked one there. Like, you need a little. You know what? They're 7-0. They're playing pretty well, but they've had a couple breaks, and that's an illustration of where they got a beneficial non-call. Like, it happens once in a while, and other times, we're watching Connor, and I think he moves so fast that you can't always get the hooks and the interior holds. And the other thing, Josh, I've said this to you for years, I believe veteran teams get veteran calls.
They do.
I believe young teams that are trying to establish themselves, they don't get a lot of calls. And I think the Oilers of the early 80s, when they played the Islanders got a lot of calls. And then conversely, as Edmonton became a really good team, by the time they played Boston in 88, 90, I think Edmonton got more calls than Boston. And your beloved Maple Leafs, you might see something happen where maybe when they play Tampa, a couple times, maybe they didn't get a lot of calls, and then maybe that started to shift a little bit. And it's so tight, right? Like, it's so close between those teams. It's not like the refs want one team to win instead of another, but a call at a time. You said it. It played an outcome in that game against Minnesota. If that's a 5-minute major to Kane, with no response from the Wild, the likelihood is to be almost impossible for Edmonton to kill that off, and they might lose the game.
Yeah.
So they got. I think they probably got away. The Oilers probably got away with one, and maybe for Vander, you're saying it's about time because they seem to mail me every time I do something.
Yeah, and obviously the Oilers been on the other side of calls that aren't good either. There's a history of definitely a history of that in its own right too. Obviously, yeah. So the other night you're on the panel with Mac T. A lot of people said I look like Mac T. I don't even know where that would come from, but we'll see about that. I don't know. Sometimes I get stopped and like people say, "Am I his son?" I'm like, no, I'm not related to him at all. So he's a good coach, but
I don't think you look like Mac T.
No, exactly. I don't. But anyways, so you obviously throw a little jab into the Oilers. I mean, to the Leafs guys as best you can. And that's the way I take it, but probably not a bad job. But
you're the only guy that took it as a job.
Exactly, probably was. So, but the only thing I think I say to that is, they're 7-1-2 in their last 10. I'm just talking about the Leafs right now for what they've gone through injury wise, and a lot of Oiler buddies they're always screenshotting me the Matthews goal total, assist total, point total compared to Hyman, and obviously overdrive.
That's not what I was talking. What I was talking about was digging in come playoff time.
I'm gonna get to that. I'm gonna get to that for sure. But the thing is, I think they're trying to win. They're winning different in ways that they weren't winning before. Is what I'm trying to say now. And I think at the end of the day, regardless of what the point total is in the playoffs. Whether McDavid has 37 points in 18 playoff games or Draisaitl has 42 or whatever it is in the series that they had the last couple of years, when I look at it, there's 0 cups next to them, so I don't think it really matters.
Josh, you're looking at it like that, so here you go.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
How many playoff series have the Maple Leafs won with this core?
They've won one, and I understand it, but I'm talking about at the end of the day when you talk about talent and what you're doing.
I would say Toronto's had a deeper team than Edmonton, and they've won one. Now, you could argue they played a tougher conference. They've won one playoff series. The Oilers have won 3.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm talking about your top 2 guys. So I look at the Leafs and I go, Matthews and Marner are their 2 best players. Now, this year, Nylander's having a great year, and, Tavares is Tavares.
Yeah.
Toronto's had decent depth in those teams. Do you know how many playoff points in the last 2 years that Matthews and Marner have had in their 18 playoff games?
Yeah, they only have like under 30, I think it's like 39 or 37 points.
No, so in 18 playoff games the last 2 years, Matthews has 20 points and Marner has 22. Okay. So they're both just over a point per game. In their entire playoff careers, 50 games played, Matthews has 44 and Marner has 47. They're less than a point per game.
Mm-hmm.
So they have 44 and 47 points in 50 games, those two guys. McDavid has 53 points in the last 2 years in 28 games. And Leon's got 50 in the last 20. So they've each played 22 games fewer, and they each have more points because they're dug in. When you watch, here's the thing. When I'm watching Edmonton and I'm watching Toronto, and I want Toronto to win because I want Edmonton and Toronto to play in the final, right? I do.
Yeah.
When I'm watching Edmonton and when the Oilers lose, no one's thinking to themselves, damn it, Connor and Leon needed to dig in and do more. They did as much as they possibly could. When they lost to Colorado, they just weren't deep enough. Colorado, don't forget, the Oilers have lost to the Stanley Cup champs the last 2 years. Yeah. They had Vegas to 6 games.
And I think
in
if you look
at Toronto's case, I bet you if you put truth serum into Brad Treliving, he would tell you, because he watched Connor and Leon take a series away from his team with Calgary. Calgary had the deeper, better team, Josh. I bet you if you put truth serum in Brad Treliving, he'd tell you we need Matthews and Marner to dig in the way McDavid and Draisaitl did. That's the point I'm making. Yeah. I'm not denying they're not great players. I might argue Mitch Marner, when he's on his game, might be the best winger in the National Hockey League. Okay? When Austin Matthews is on his game, he's right there with Connor, and a lot would assert, based on 5-on-5 productivity and plus minus, that he might be better than Leon when he's on his game. But in the playoffs, the last 2 years, you can't deny who the best two players in the playoffs have been. The Oilers have played as many playoff series as anyone the last 2 years, and McDavid and Draisaitl have been the most productive players in the playoffs. They haven't. The Oilers not winning is not a reflection on those guys. It's a reflection that the organization's got to build more around them. That's where I'm coming from, Josh.
Yeah. And Bob, that's what I like so much about you, is you say everything that I got on my head. You're literally speaking my mind. And
well, that's a scary thing, because I don't want to know what's on your mind in an hour from now.
It's not a knock. It's not a knock on Matthews and Marner, but I would say if they could get closer, and it's a tough ask to compete with McDavid and Draisaitl, but if they can be closer to them in the playoffs and just get that much closer to a McDavid and Draisaitl combo, it will make a big difference in Toronto. But to this point, it just hasn't happened, and that's why Toronto is where they are. Would that be fair?
Yeah, I mean, I actually think the Leafs, like, you know what, you look back at 2021, they lose that series in 7 to Montreal, 3-game heater from Carey Price, but that was maybe the easiest opportunity they had. They lose in 20. Who did they lose to in? I just won 20. Yeah, in 22 they lost to Tampa, right?
Yeah, they lost to Tampa.
And in 23 they beat Tampa.
Yeah,
and I might argue with you, Josh. They played better in 22 when I watched those games, like than they did in 23.
They all played Tampa in that first round. They lost, and then Tampa played them, and they had the 3.
And Toronto won. And Toronto won.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm saying,
and every game against Florida was a 1-goal game loss. It's not like they got blown out, right? So when they played the Panthers. So
but McDavid and Draisaitl willed Edmonton to victory over Calgary.
Yeah.
In a round 2 series. And you could argue 2 years in a row against LA, and maybe the Oilers should have never gone 7 against LA in year 1 because LA didn't have Doughty. And I'm not denying that the degree of difficulty, that Tampa Bay is not a way better team than LA. But when the money was on the line, Connor and Leon got to a place and dragged their whole team along with them. And I don't think you can say that with Matthews and Marner yet. Now, here's the beauty for the Leafs. They got Nylander, they got Tavares, they got a smart general manager. They're going to add another defenseman. They got Riley, who's a good D-man. Goaltending, I guess, right now, I mean, it looks like the Wall kid's going to be good down the road. They could do it. Yeah. They could still win this year. And I'll tell you right now, if they win, it's going to be because if Toronto does win, Josh, it'll be because Marner and Matthews have a playoff like Leon and Connor had 2 years ago, or even last.
Hey, as a guy that watches every single Leaf game and haven't missed the Leaf game, I don't see. I'm not trying to criticize them. Like, that's just not them. They're not those type of players. They're not. The team isn't built that way. Like, that's how the Oilers are built. Oilers are top heavy. Like, the owner of the Vegas Golden Knights said it when they won the Stanley Cup last year. He's like, we knew we were going to beat Edmonton. There's no way we weren't going to lose to Edmonton. When you play Connor and Leon 26, 27 minutes a night.
What does the new coach do right now?
Yeah, he's like, you're going to win.
What's the new coach done right now?
He scaled the minutes down for sure. So, but Bill Foley said it in an interview after they won the Stanley Cup. Now, it's probably easier for him to say that after the fact. Maybe he didn't speak openly. I don't know. He's a very outspoken owner. He said he was going to win a Stanley Cup in the first 6 years. He won a Stanley Cup in the first 6 years.
They got to the Final Four times. They had pretty long extended playoff. They also missed the playoffs the year before they won the Cup. And let's not forget, it was 2-2 in the series after 2 games. And in 7 minutes, they flipped the series in Game 5. And then their goalie stole Game 6.
Yeah. But
in fairness to him, I do think the Oilers' top guys did run out of a little bit. Like, they played a ton. I will be stunned if assuming Edmonton makes the playoffs this year, unless there's injuries, I don't see Edmonton playing 11-7.
Yeah.
I think they want to roll 4 lines and build. They need Holloway to come back. I think they'll add at least 1, possibly 2 more forwards via trade at some point. So, but you can talk about it. They're not built the same way, the two teams. I'm just telling you, the McDavid and Draisaitl got the Oilers as far as they possibly could have, literally on their own, because they were dug in and they were all in. They got to another level than they were at when they lost to, even when they lost to Chicago, they had 15 points in 4 games.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I think we're still a little bit waiting for Matthews and Mark. Now, they got help because Nylander's a hell of a player too.
He's always played good in the playoffs. Tavares always played good, and then he got hurt, right? So, I just look at it like it's easy to make the excuse. Like you said it numerous times. If they have Kadri in one of the 2 Boston series, they probably win. They win and they go on, right? Whether they win the Stanley Cup, who knows? At least they get past the round.
They get past. If he just keeps his head about them, they probably win one of those 2 series.
Yeah. So, and obviously the direction of the team is a little bit more different under that situation.
Maybe
then I look at it. They're playing Wall, who's only had 6 games to his credit. He's their starting goaltender because Kyle Dubas went in on the Saint Saint Marie boys. Every guy, if you played for Saint Marie, if you played for the
Saint Marie,
you played for the Suit, you got a contract with the Toronto Maple Leafs under Kyle Dubas. So, but the fact that and it is whatever, injuries are part of the game. I'm not going to blame it, but if they do it, awesome. Matthews and Marner have.
Let me ask you. Let me pose the question.
I just don't think they're built that way. Is my thing. Like,
my response.
I still think Matthews is the best goal scorer in the NHL by far, hands down. I think Matthews is the best goal scorer in the NHL right now by far, hands down. So, obviously and the reason why is because what he does 5-on-5. Even strength is the hardest time to score, and he does it at the best, at the greatest rate. He has 35 more goals than the next player at even strength goals since he's broken in the NHL. Like, I don't know, but that's hard in this market, right? If he plays in this market, then the conversation of Matthews is the best because you won't have anyone in this market in Edmonton say he's that great. They just won't. Like you might
talking about, he's a top 5 player. Like he probably is the purest goal scoring forward in the league right now. He probably is. I would probably concede that because McDavid probably needs more opportunities. But guess what? McDavid can get more opportunities because he's gifted from the gods and he's that dynamic of a player. Again, Josh, at the end of the day, a guy going on the air and saying the McDavid and Draisaitl have dug in and elevated Edmonton to 5 playoff series in the last 2 years, and they've been the 2 best offensive. They've been the 2 best players in the playoffs over the last 2 years.
Hands down.
Vegas didn't. You can't deny it.
No, I would never deny it. They're like
in order for Toronto to take the next step, they're going to need those guys to have that level of productivity. You heard it here.
Yeah, and Leon.
In my mind, the NHL it's the tightest league in professional sports. There's no argument about it. You compare it to football, baseball, basketball. It's the tightest league in professional sports, in my opinion. And the big challenge for management and for coaching staffs is how do we get the most out of these top 2 guys or top 3 guys? How do we manage their minutes, and what roles do we distinguish for these guys? Because honestly, at the end of the day, where all this comes from is we're in the tightest competition in professional sports, in my opinion. So it's on the owners, it's on the coaches to maximize production.
I mean, Bill Foley.
A couple key guys in minute roles, in player roles, in position roles, and how do we get the most out of what we got? Because we got good things, and let's get the most out of it, right?
Well,
I mean, the Oilers took Vegas to 6. It was there for them. I think what happened is they had a failure to capitalize, and it affected them at the start of the year. I think they just wanted to get back and get right and forgot, hey, we got to earn our way in and get going here. They didn't have any offensive juice early in the season, and they defended poorly and their goalies struggled out of the gate.
Yeah.
But it was, you talk about it being close. It's a 7-minute. Just think about the sequencing of what happened in Game 4. It's a 2-2 series. Alex Pietrangelo, 2 hands, the most dynamic offensive player in the league in the playoffs the last 2 years. Okay? He 2 hands him. He chops him. And then Darnell Nurse, and if Darnell had that play over, he probably doesn't, go engage in the fight with Haig. We had 2 rescinded instigator fighting majors last year in the regular season. There wasn't one that actually resulted in another game suspension. Okay? But they held it, so both teams lost their best defenseman for a game each. Well, Vegas had a better defense than Edmonton. So now Broberg's got to play, and he's the guy that gets called on a 50-50 call. Remember, veteran players get veteran calls.
Yeah.
He gets a 50-50 call, and then Janmark takes a high stick, and now they got a 5-on-3, and boom, they're back in the game, and they're off and running in Game 5 because the Oilers were up. If Nurse plays that game and Pietrangelo's, by the way, for the record, I don't believe for a second, had Darnell Nurse not done the instigator, and they suspended him for a game, I do not believe for a second that Alex Pietrangelo would have been suspended. He should have been.
You should have been, yeah.
I don't believe he would have been suspended if Nurse hadn't also been suspended.
Yeah, and a lot of that goes back to what happened to Vegas against San Jose years ago. They get some of the calls.
They got hosed.
Yep.
The Vegas Golden Knights got hosed on that play of Pavelski.
Yeah.
They did. And they're a really well-run, ruthless and relentless organization.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, how's Dubas doing in Pittsburgh?
Not so well.
They've had the longest trio of players play together of any active team in professional sport, right? Between Crosby, Malkin, and Letang.
Yeah.
They add Carlson. I watched that team last year. Edmonton went in there and just pounded them. And they looked slow. And now they still look slow. Don't bet against those guys. They're great players, but your Leafs are going to be fine. They're making the playoffs all day.
Yeah, well, maybe in a wild card because, I do like what Detroit's doing. And
their Leafs will finish it.
Yeah.
Top three all day.
Yeah. Well, obviously, Samsonov came in and, if the biggest thing right now, the Leafs are only in the position that they're in because the goaltending and Nylander right now. It's weird saying it. Matthews is only one behind Kucherov for the goal lead, but, Matthews hasn't been his normal self. Marner has definitely not been his normal self. And, Tavares has been pretty good, but, I do like what they've done. They've added more speed. Noah Gregor's a really great player. He's got 4 goals now, and that was a good signing by Brad. And hey, I've been saying for years, Brad Treliving's, if not the best, one of the best general managers in the league.
He's a top 5 GM for me.
Yeah, I'm a very biased to that. The guy is obviously, he didn't know me from a hole in the ground, and took an email, took a phone call, and set me up with some help in the Flames organization. So, and hey, I didn't know who.
That's a sign that he's got poor judgment.
Yeah, that he definitely does. Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, let's end on that. Strickland, you have anything else you want to add? We went a little bit longer than expected.
Yeah. I got a quick one for Bob. The pack. It's been a long time since we talked last. So many things have happened between the time that we spoke last time. But the Patrick Kane signing, was it hook up with my buddy DeBrincat again? Was it Steve Yzerman? motivated the move? What do you think pushed it so Patrick Kane went over?
I'd like to tell you I know, but I don't. I have no clue. I don't actually know.
Okay.
I do know this. I think David Perron's going to get suspended for a bunch of games here. Anytime you have an in-person hearing, that's not good.
Yeah.
You know, DeBrincat was really. I'm a little. We got Bedard going against. We got Connor against Connor on Tuesday. I'm still trying to figure out why they did the Kirby Dach trade in Chicago. Like, that's the one for me. I just, for a middle first round pick, they must not like Dach, and Kirby's been really unlucky. But we're seeing this year with Byfield, who was drafted a year after Dach, what happens when a guy that size starts to grow into his frame. Dach's had the bad injuries. I like 6'4" and 6'5" players that can skate and are smart.
Yeah.
So DeBrincat going. So Jeff Jackson's the CEO of the Edmonton Oilers. He was representing Connor McDavid, Alex DeBrincat, Taylor Radish, Darren Radish, Connor Brown. They're all in Erie. Not all of them were super high-end midget picks in their draft. And he watched the guy help those guys become NHL players.
McDermott too.
And
Curtis McDermott.
What's that?
Curtis McDermott was there too, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. Oh yeah, he was their tough guy.
Yeah.
And he's tough. He's plenty tough.
Yeah.
I look at good point by you, Mark, on the DeBrincat Kane thing. That was scary last night with Larkin, real scary. But hopefully, I think it's here's a question for you, because I brought some stats up. Do you know which team the last 5 seasons had the worst record in the NHL combined record?
Yeah, it's the Detroit Red Wings.
The Detroit Red Wings. So their fans deserve a better year, and they're headed in that fashion this year.
Yeah.
All right, you guys have
Awesome.
have a good rest of the Sunday night. This game's over, it looks like. Bob, enjoy.
I'm taking a loss in fantasy football, but it's well worth it to be on with you here over the last hour.
Exactly. It's always fun, eh, stuff. So, all right, thank you. Have a good one.
Hey,
Thanks, guys.
take care, man. See ya.